Welcome back to the Lights Out podcast, bedtime stories for boys and girls around the world. Good evening, boys and girls. Are you ready for bed? Are you all snuggled up and ready for another Lights Out bedtime story? Good, because you're in for a treat tonight. We have got chapter 11 of Fing by David Williams. And this chapter is called Twin Beds. The big question was this: who would have to go to the deepest, darkest, jungliest jungle in search of this blasted thing? Sitting up in their twin beds, Mr. and Mrs. Meek discussed this. Way into the night. Of course, both were desperate not to go, but, being who they were, the argument was remarkably polite. "But you need a jolly good holiday, Father," began Mother with a smile. "You have been working so hard at the library. You should go." "Oh, no. You have always said you wanted to travel and explore the world, Mother," replied Father. "Have I? You said you wanted to go to the seaside." "For the day? Well, this will be very much like a day out at the seaside." "In what way?" pressed Mrs. Meek. "Well, that stumped Mr. Meek rather. There might be an ice cream van," he offered pitifully. "An ice cream van?" Mrs. Meek was incredulous. "In the deepest, darkest, jungliest jungle?" There was loud banging on the wall. Boom, boom, boom. "Keep it down in there," shouted Myrtle from her bedroom next door. I can barely hear myself grunt." The grunt was so loud the whole house rumbled. Needless to say, Mr. and Mrs. Meek both looked appalled. Mother suddenly had a thought and whispered to her husband, "Of course, one of us is going to have to stay behind and look after our darling daughter all on their own." "I'll go," replied, as quick as a flash. "To the deepest, darkest, jungliest jungle." "Yes, so that's settled then. Good night." With that, he switched off the light. Flick! Mr. Meek slept like a baby that night. He woke up every 2 hours, crying his eyes out. The end of Chapter 11, Twin Beds of Fing by David Williams, here on the Lights Out podcast. Bedtime stories for boys and girls around the world. Good night.